so much. It really is an honor to be invited here. My Italian side is obviously on my father's side. De Carlo is the last name, and we grew up in New Jersey. So the Italian experience I'm familiar with is Newark, New Jersey, and Long Island. So I'm very excited to be welcomed into the Chicago Italian experience. And I mean, there's a lot of books that I need to buy, honey. So I'm again very thankful to Anna and Dominic for including me today. I would like to, and I carefully timed it so it's like 14 minutes and 39 seconds. So I think we'll be okay. Okay. So I would like to talk about two projects, actually, of mine, and talk about how they're connected. One I completed 10 years ago, and it's my nonfiction book called The Wicked Truth: When Good People Do Bad Things. And it's about the Broadway musical Wicked. Has anyone seen that musical? No, listened to the soundtrack? Read the book? Okay, great. Then you know that the musical is the story of the Wizard of Oz, told from the point of view of the Wicked Witch of the West. In my book, I use the musical as a way to give an introduction to mimetic theory, which is a revolutionary explanation of human behavior that, when I learned about it, challenged everything I thought I knew about good and evil. Now, the theory was developed by Rene Girard, one of the most brilliant thinkers of the late 20th century. Girard's thought is counterintuitive, and reading him feels a little bit like having your foundation unmoored by a twister. Two insights of his radically alter the way we think about conflict and peace. First, he convincingly demonstrates that we come into conflict not because of differences, but because of what we have in common. We fight because our desires have converged on an object neither side is willing to share. In other words, our enemies are mirror images of our desires, more like us than we are comfortable admitting. And second, Girard insists that the greatest obstacle to peace is not evil or wicked people, though they certainly exist. The greatest obstacle is the faith that good people have in the goodness of our own violence. He offers brilliant insights into the dynamic of scapegoating by which good people convince themselves that they have identified the wickedest witch of all and are therefore justified in killing her. To achieve peace, Girard insisted good people must learn to recognize just how often our enemies are our scapegoats. Now, again, this is counterintuitive thinking. When I saw the musical Wicked, I kind of resisted going to see it because I had been a fan of the 1939 movie, and I didn't want anything to spoil my enjoyment of the wonderful Wizard of Oz and my thrill at the end of the movie when a good little girl, just like me, had defeated the most wickedest evil person in the land. Girard, though, taught me that this story of good conquering evil is an example of what he called a myth of good violence. Now, in The Wicked Truth, I contrast the movie with Wicked the musical, which does what no good myth would ever do: question the necessity of killing the witch. Now, you may be surprised to learn that there are plenty of clues in the movie that cast doubt on the goodness of Dorothy and her friends. Clues that the myth of good violence keeps us from taking seriously. What did I just do? Oh, yeah, okay. I was thinking about putting the book down. All right, don't think about anything else. Okay, for example, Remember that when we first meet the Wicked Witch of the West in the movie, her sister has been killed by Dorothy's falling house, right? All that's left of the poor woman are her shoes. Now, they end up on Dorothy's feet, right? Everyone's seen this movie, right? You know the story. And the witch wants them for herself. When Dorothy refuses to give them up on the advice of good counsel, the good witch of Glinda, the Wicked Witch is enraged. She vows to get the shoes, even if she has to kill Dorothy to get them, right? Now, the movie wants us to accept the Wicked Witch's embrace of violence as evidence of her wickedness. For if she succeeds in killing Dorothy, we would call it a murder, right? Of course. So with that in mind, let's skip ahead to a pivotal scene in which Dorothy and her friends mirror the witch's violence almost exactly. It's when they have their audience with the wizard. Each of them wants something as desperately as the witch wants the shoes, right? I don't have to name the things. Okay, what does the wizard tell them they must do to get what they want? Bring him the broomstick of the Wicked Witch of the West. And they know right away that they're going to have to kill her to get it, right? But that doesn't deter them. Like the witch, they are willing to kill to get what they want. But because the witch is wicked and they are good, the assumptions we bring to the story, neither they nor we question the morality of this particular murder. Now, let's skip to the end of the movie. Remember that when they bring the broomstick to the wizard and demand that he fulfill his promise, to make their dreams come true, he tells them, what? They already have what they so desperately wanted. But we somehow managed to ignore this rather blatant evidence that Dorothy and friends have killed someone for no good reason. And so we join the Ozzy in celebration of the witch's death without any moral misgivings. The movie ends with good people never understanding that in the name of goodness, they have done a very bad thing. The wicked truth is that when good people use violence to achieve our ends, we must give up our claim to being good. Now, my other project seems on the surface to be very different from the wicked truth. It's my work in progress, a play inspired by the life and work of the great Italian educator, Dr. Maria Montessori. And I call the play The Miracle of San Lorenzo. I wish I had it to hold up someday. But like Girard, Montessori's work has direct application to the pursuit of peace. In 1907, she began an experiment with a group of 50 3- to 6-year-olds who were running wild and vandalizing their low-income housing project in San Lorenzo, a slum district of Rome. But under the influence of Montessori's carefully prepared learning environments, these impoverished children from mostly illiterate families became calm, peaceful, and capable of intense meditative concentration. When they began to read and write with very little instruction, it shocked Dr. Montessori as much as it shocked the world. And her little experiment in San Lorenzo became a pilgrimage site for those interested in unleashing the untapped human potential for peace. She realized that by shifting the method of teaching from talking at children to observing and supporting what children were doing spontaneously, a new type of humanity would emerge, one that was less prone to violence and scapegoating. Now, Maria Montessori died in 1952, just as Rene Girard's career was beginning. But in many ways, her discovery is an application of Girard's mimetic theory to education. They were both geniuses. A French genius, Girard is a French immigrant, and Montessori, an Italian genius, but boldly proposed theories that challenged conventional thinking. And they scandalized the world in large part because they were scientists who made no secret of their faith. They shared a conviction that their discoveries were not of their own making, but were given to them in flashes of insight for a divine purpose. As Dr. Montessori quips at one point in my play, "My method is scientific, my faith is in God." Both were extraordinary scientists who refused to scapegoat religion. And now I'd like to take the few minutes to introduce you to Dr. Montessori as I'm dramatizing her in my play. In these excerpts, she is addressing the attendees of the first international training course in her method that was held in Rome in 1913. Many Americans were there, actually. She directly addresses the audience as if you are these first students. So I invite you to imagine attending the lectures of this world-famous innovator as she shares her discovery of the secret inner life of children with you. I'm not an actress, but I'll pretend I'm Dr. Montessori. It is tempting to be sentimental about children, but sentiment will blind you to the real child. You must cultivate love, not sentiment, for it is love that desires to be drawn into exquisite knowledge of the beloved. May I tell you something? To the world, I am an accomplished woman, replete with fame and honor. Indeed, when I was young, I desired my own glory most of all. But I did not find joy until I found the child. When I am with children, I am nobody. And the greatest privilege I have when I approach them is being able to forget that I even exist. For this has enabled me to see things that one would miss if one were somebody. Little things, simple but precious truths. One day early in our experiment at San Lorenzo, I had entered the classroom holding in my arms a 4-month-old baby girl that I had taken from her mother in the courtyard. She was swaddled, as is the custom, and her face was full and rosy, and she was so still that her silence impressed me greatly. The children gathered around me, naturally interested to see what I was holding so carefully in my arms. "Do you hear?" I asked them. "Listen. She's not making a sound. None of you could do as well." I said it as a little joke, but to my surprise, the children looked at me intensely, so I continued to draw their attention to the silence. "Notice how soft her breath is. None of you could breathe as silently as she." They took my comment to heart. They became motionless. They held their breath. It was an impressive silence. Little by little, we could hear other slight sounds that often went unnoticed. The far-off chirping of a bird, the drip of water hitting the floor. When I thought they had been silent for as long as was possible for them, I sent them back to their work. But they did not move. Not until I promised that they would practice silence again tomorrow did they return to their activities. Who were these children? Capable of such advanced spiritual discipline. I remembered the words of Christ. The kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And the play ends with this address from Dr. Montessori. Or it ends this way now. Who knows where the edits are going to take it. Okay. Congratulations, dear students. You have completed your first month of training. A good time for a story about St. Lawrence, the great martyr of the early church for whom the San Lorenzo district is named. In the 3rd century, the Emperor Valerian ordered all bishops, priests, and deacons to be put to death. Now, the Bishop of Rome, Sixtus II, was found murdered in the catacombs with 6 of his 7 deacons. The only remaining deacon, St. Lawrence. The next day he was arrested, though not immediately killed, because the Romans knew that he was the deacon in charge of the treasury and distributing the church's offerings to the poor. So the Romans demanded he bring them all the treasures of the church if he wanted to avoid the fate of his brethren. Now, dear Lawrence did return in 3 days' time, but not with the money from the treasury. No, he arrived leading a procession of the poor and sick of Rome. These are the treasures of the church, he said, and for his faith he was tortured and burned to death on a gridiron. Now, friends, you have been called to a great redeeming work. And though you will not be roasted on a gridiron, you will be misunderstood by the world. Those who store up earthly treasures for themselves will never recognize the value buried within the hearts of little children. Children wait in hope that we will swallow our pride to be led by them into the future God is preparing for us all. Love does not coerce or demand. It waits in patient silence to be received. Now go, learn from the children, and spread the word among all the earth that God has not withdrawn from the world or hidden his face from us. The age of peace has begun, and you are its missionaries. Thank you.